let's highlight our first speaker, Chrissy. Jan Roberts, Jan from Johannesburg. There we are. Jan and I first crossed paths a long ago, I think 2020, end of 2020 or 2021, when he was delivering a webinar. He's not aware that I was there, but I was there. It was a workshop on personal development. And I was instantly drawn to the passion that he brought to value-based leadership. He doesn't just teach leadership, he lives it. He is born leader. When I heard about his roundtables and global influence, I was like, I totally knew that he's somebody that could inspire us in our summit. Of course, when I knew him at the first time, I didn't know that I was going to be running summits like this, but Jan is a global influencer. He's a leadership consultant. I looked up Google first, and Google told me that Google calls him the self-leadership strategist. He's a co-founder of Key Leadership Institute, and is the founder of JR's Speaker Club. He's probably going to tell us a little bit more about that soon. He's also based in Scotland and South Africa at the same time because of his origins. And we are really, really highly, extremely honored and delighted to have him here today. His programs bring transformation to not just people, to governments, to big corporations, to universities, to non-government organizations, you name it. This is a big man, and you guys really need to listen. His expertise spans leadership, communication, personal growth, and it's all delivered with a world-class method that's internationally proven. So Jan's flagship program, Values-Based Leadership, creates lasting change. He's also about building positive culture where people feel valued and respected, no matter what their background is and no matter what differences they have. His vision is big, to foster workplaces and communities where honor and collaboration will thrive. That is why he's very special to me. Today, Jan is speaking on value-based living, how to build a solid foundation for your life, business, and leadership. He'll tackle why leadership fails and how self-leadership through personal development changes everything. So expect insights, hold your pen ready, and be ready to be inspired. Take it away, Jan.
Well, thank you very much for those kind words, and it's a pleasure to be here among so many wonderful, amazing people and fellow speakers. And to start with, let me ask you a question so we're on the same page. Are you actually somebody who is becoming more successful without any consideration of who you walk over, which person or business you destroy in the process? Let me tell you that if that's you, my talk might be a little bit more challenging for you. And if you learn nothing from this, I wish you the best of luck because you will probably need it. I just had to get it out of the way. But I want to begin by telling you a little story of how values-based leadership actually changed my life. I joined the John Maxwell team, the Maxwell leadership team, in 2012, and early 2013, John asked for volunteers to help start transformation of an entire country. Now, I'm a bit of a personal development freak as well, and I'm always interested in adding value to people, so he didn't have to tell me twice. In June of, and the information was by Paul Martinelli, one of the founders of the Maxwell team. He said, you're going to go somewhere to do some things for some people at some time. Yet with that sales pitch, 150 people went with us to the beautiful country of Guatemala. Now, Guatemala is a country of about 14 million people with average age only 20. So you can imagine that everything that could go wrong probably went wrong in that country. But it was an amazing experience. The first 3 days we spent time getting to learn about the first time I got to know about the program of values-based leadership. It's not new. It's been going on for quite a while and was developed in Amish country in America. But for the first time, and also in those 3 days, we had to get to grips with our interpreters because everything was Spanish there, and I didn't do that day in school. So, and most of our interpreters were teenagers, average age only 20. But then in the next 3 days, in morning, noon, evening, sometimes, we trained 19,000 people to become values-based leadership facilitators. Now, to say that had an impact in my life was a total understatement. I mean, it was total mayhem. We went from government to the forces, to the fire brigade, to schools, to hospitals, to education, to churches, everywhere. And it left such an impression on me that I knew that I was still looking for the last piece of my jigsaw puzzle to go, because we all have this little voice that sits on our shoulder that tells us that, you know, that we have to do stuff. And most of us, we say, yeah, we'll do it tomorrow. Well, we know for certain that we've got today because we're here, but we're never guaranteed tomorrow. And that's why Les Brown always says that the biggest place is the graveyard, because everybody who wanted to do things tomorrow takes it with them to the grave. And there's a whole story behind that. But it left such an impression on me that on the way home, I quit my job. I was 30 years in the oil industry and I never hated my job. But as I said, there was always something that told me I needed to do more. And that voice made my comfort zone. I was one of the few experts in the world in what I did. It made that comfort zone become my uncomfort zone. So on the way home, I quit my job because it was just a case of, if I don't do it now, then when? And if it's not me, then who? So I quit my job. I had to work for another year as I was the project manager by then. But then in 2014, just before I left my job, actually, I was also invited into Berlin, Ohio, to become one of the founder members of the global certification as a values-based leadership specialist. Since then, we've been into different countries. We did a similar trip in Paraguay in 2016, where we trained 17,000 people. We learned a few lessons from the first time. And then they went to Costa Rica in 2018. But the year after me, my wife, Dr. Robberts, who's also here, also became a values-based leadership specialist. And we supported an amazing lady in Ireland who actually started Lift Ireland, leading Ireland's future together. So also using the values, and we got invited to be part of that start as well. And then COVID happened. It got thrust upon us. Now, Arthi, there was 48 values in the program, and Arthi actually wrote another value called the value of compassion. She's currently also writing the book, The Compassionate Leader of Influence, and anybody who knows that he is compassion. But that value, there's a whole story behind it again, but started the transformation of Lebanon, which is ongoing to this day. We've also been involved online in transformational material using values-based leadership in Pakistan and Bangladesh, and of course in South and Southern Africa as well. And online, we've been training people from all around the world to become certified facilitators and run this program. Now, there's one thing that I need to mention there, because John Maxwell, already early on, I heard him say things that, a quote that, once you have tasted significance, once you have really tasted significance, success will never be enough. And I had honestly, to be honest, I had no clue what the difference was between significance and success. But I learned in Guatemala, I felt it, I experienced it, I saw it in the people's eyes, and it hit me right in my chest. And significance is when you do things for other people. Success is just merely for yourself. There's plenty of people who become very successful, but they're empty because they have that piece missing. So I wanted this to become part of my toolbox, if you like, because for the simple reason, I want people like you, other people, to feel just that kind of significance that I felt for that week in Guatemala. And if I can pass that on to other people, then it will make a difference in other lives, hoping that they will pass that on again as well, paying it forward. But one thing I can say about this whole process, without any reservations, when you get actively involved in this program, it will change your life. And I don't take that statement easily and say it just off the cuff. 11 years of this kind of process have proven this, and there's people online here with us just now. They can vouch for that too. So, after all this, the background story on values-based leadership, if you are ready to lead, if you're ready to take your life, your business, and your leadership to the next level, based on a solid foundation, based on human values, basic human values, if you are ready to throw your heart in the ring instead of the towel, then you're at the right place at the right time. And it's not just because of what I'm going to say. There's another 7 speakers today after me who've got a lot to add to that, and a lot of important things. So don't just stay here for one. Make sure you stay and even bring some more friends to the table, because there is a lot of amazing information in this summit. Now, I mentioned Les Brown already. He's my friend and mentor as well. Les Brown said already many years ago that leadership is failing due to a lack of values. Now, this has become more obvious in the last few years, and I'm not going to go into that, but I'm sure that any one of us can point a finger into a politician, into maybe even a scientist, a member in the media, a sports person, or a music star or whatever. And I think it's quite interesting, because most of the time we've got no problem pointing fingers at others. I call it brainstorming. But what if I said to you that we are all leaders? So my question is, how are your values doing? So that might be a little bit more of a question that you need to really look into, and I hope that makes you think into it, because I'm not talking about those beautiful values, these frame values hanging in the entrances of impressive buildings which houses major corporations, where most people, including top management, don't have a clue about, understand, let alone live by those values. But I'm talking about values such as integrity, honesty, forgiveness, listening, respect, restraint, hope, and many more. Basic human values that we should all know, and at least some of them have them in our repertoire, in values that we will never compromise on. Because let's face it, when we look around the world, there's so many injustices. I mean, bullying in different forms, the need to control negative uses of power, gender-based violence, wars, gaslighting, cancel cultures, hunger, poverty, corruption, and the list goes on and on and on. Well, this shows not only that basic human values are not just important, but they are hugely necessary for us as people to understand, communicate, build relationships, and live together peacefully, if that is ever possible. So, question to you, all of you, what do you value? What are your values as a leader? And as I said already, leadership is about self-leadership, and self-leadership is all about ourselves. We are all leaders. We don't lead everybody at the same level, but we all lead. So what is so important to you that you would never, ever, ever compromise on? Now, I'm sure that by now I might get a few blank stares, which in Scotland they call glaiked looks, and wonder what I'm talking about, but that's okay. Then I hope this talk will actually give you some important insights into what you can and should do to start building a solid foundation on which to build the rest of your life. So, just to reiterate, what do you stand for? What do you believe in? What is really of utmost importance to you? Now, I'm sure it's certainly worth thinking about, don't you think? And if it is worth thinking about, put a yes in the chat. Humor me a little bit to make sure that you're still there and listening. But and on a personal level, this could be things like family, like religion, hobbies, your work, maybe even your laptop, all the kind of things that are of value, even invaluable to you. But and in a business that might a business setting that might be a little bit different, even though you should always carry your personal values with you wherever you go, because you need to have them. If we all know the saying that if you stand for nothing, you will fall for everything. Now, as a behavior analysis consultant, I also ask people how well they know themselves, because that's also key to becoming your best self. Again, with some blank stares at the time, but it shouldn't be here, because if you were here on day 2, there was a lady, Elaine Godley, a lady with a powerful, powerful story, who talked into DISC. I'm coming from a leadership DISC background, but she really talked into that and covered it. So if you weren't there, get the recordings. But we often talk about many different cultures, which sometimes even get the blame for us not living our best life. But culture is basically who we are. Vision is what we can do. And as John Maxwell says, culture eats vision for breakfast. But of course, it is important to know where we come from and who we are. But we also need a strong vision of what we can do, what we will do, and the actions we will take to make sure that this world will become a better place. We all have a responsibility to ourselves and our fellow human beings to discover and live our God-given purpose. See, most of us will have heard the quote, "Be the change you want to see in the world." Well, what exactly does that mean to you? It really talks into this a lot, because to be that change, we need to become the best person we can be. And therefore, we need to have an intrinsic value system that we can take into that world, because I'm sure we want the world to become a better place. Therefore, we need to grow and become better as well. I hope that makes sense. Now, let's talk a little bit more into the leadership part of things. I was looking into research and what happened, and I came up with something frightening, really, that up to $550 billion a year, that's what a lack of good leadership costs US corporations, according to Gallup. Now, it causes high turnover, low morale, poor performance, amongst other things, leading to disastrous results, even court cases and bankruptcies. Now, see, leadership is not just a position, a set of skills, or a title. It is actually a behavior. It is an ongoing process of self-awareness, self-regulation, and continuous learning. See, it's all about self first. Leadership is all about personal growth, intentional personal growth. When we treat ourselves as instruments of change, we become attuned to the impact we have on others and the organizations we lead. Now, remember, I just said intentional, and I emphasize that because it's more than just having good intentions. Put your hand up if you've ever had good intentions. And I'm pretty sure that all of us would put our hands up for that. Now, the difference, see, people with good intentions might do something good occasionally, but people who live an intentional life will do something good continually. See, another thing I mentioned is that growth has to be a daily, not just someday when we feel like it, because the only way we can guarantee that our tomorrows will be better is if we do something to grow ourselves today. Again, I hope that makes sense. And if it does, please put yes in the chat just to humor me. Now, during my research, I'm also writing a book, The Power of Values. I found a quote by Mi-Young Judge. Now, I had to practice that a few times before I put my teeth back in, which I want to share with you. See, and that's the following. To lead effectively, one must first self. This entails deep self-reflection, understanding one's values, strengths, and triggers, and constantly, intentionally, striving for personal development. Only then can a leader authentically inspire and guide others. Now, I don't know about you, but I thought it was a beautiful quote, and it fits in well where we are talking about just now. So, walking the walk is the way to live and lead well. I think we can all agree on that. And those that don't, we've already seen that's how they feel. But have you ever met people who say one thing and do another? You know, that when they talk, you get that uncomfortable feeling that something just isn't right. That's usually when they are not walking the walk, and you will hopefully think twice before becoming friends and or do business with them. However, the opposite is also true. And when you walk away from them, you just get that amazing warm feeling, that amazing connection in your chest, sometimes in the depth of your soul. See, my question for you is, what impression do you give others when you connect with them? Now, you might have heard of this quote, which I always love, is every single person lights up a room, some when they enter and others when they leave. I'm not going to ask you which one are you, but I hope, and I'm sure that most of you light up the room when you enter. So, when we look at values-based living, how do you really do that kind of stuff? Now, let me say, values are absolute key to your success in life, in your business, and your social environment. And of course, at your leadership development. See, walking the walk is the way you live and lead well. And without values, we are doomed, as they say in Scotland, for failure sooner or later. So what we must do is we must live an intentional life to wake up every single day with purpose, passion, and perseverance. And that's also how we build our feeling of significance. We must communicate more often, and we must and more effectively with each other. We must connect with more people, especially after the last few years. The human connection, the human touch is so undervalued. We must recognize and embrace values, basic human values, and we must leave nobody behind, ever. So as you hopefully heard from my talk so far, and I'm nearly done because of time. I mean, this is a half hour to an hour keynote. One of the best ways to start connecting with yourself and others is by embracing values into your life, by sitting down and discussing what values are important, how values are helping you, and how values impact you and everyone around you. See, for personal values, I actually suggest that you sit down with a pen and paper and write down what you value most, what is really important to you. And when you have figured it out, read those values every single day until they are absolutely ingrained in you. In organizations, include every person by asking them what they value, what values are important to them, rather than just a few people in HR. Then take the most popular ones and create awareness about what the chosen values actually mean, especially in a business environment. It starts here. Communication, understanding, and buy-in are key to making all those all-important connections to build positive, lasting relationships. So what's next? Now, there's a quote by Wallace D. Wattles who says, the world needs demonstration more than it needs instruction. See, there's simply no substitute for making values your own and living them out every single day. Be the change. Values improve company cultures, financial innovation, social impact, and inclusion. But transformation always starts from the inside out. And the slogan, therefore, for values-based leadership is transformation begins in me. This is why values-based leadership is such an important part of our lives. When you live and breathe your authentic self, who you really are, you can and will become the person, the leader you are meant to be in your family, in your organization, and yes, even in your country. When we start to connect, to partner, to collaborate, when we begin to connect from our hearts instead of merely our heads, we will be able to make a sustainable difference because we can, we will, and we must do this together. It is great to leave a legacy, but so much better to live a legacy. So join me and let's walk this exciting journey of discovery called life together. And just remember that transformation begins with me. Thank you.
Right. I was wondering why I can't unmute myself. That is fire. You lit the room on fire, Jan. Live the legacy. It's great to leave a legacy, but living a legacy, very few people do. The floor is open to questions. Open up your mics or raise your electronic hand. Go, Richard.
Jan, awesome speech. Thank you so much for what you, your inspiration.
Much appreciated. And much appreciated for all the work you do behind the scenes all 5 days of this week. We appreciate you too. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sarah?
I don't even quite know how to phrase this question, but you're working in some countries where like there's conflict, there's clash or conflict of values, of goals, of purposes. How do you maintain a love and respect for people who don't share your values, but at the same time bring those values, at the same time help people align around values, which helps to like address some of those really core challenges?
Well, that's a great question, and thanks for asking, Sarah. Yeah, well, I always say the respect is one thing, because we always expect other people to respect us. But my question always is, do you respect others? Because for other people to respect you, you can't expect others to give you. You need to give first before you can receive. So there's respect. And then the third part of that is most of the people who expect respect don't even respect themselves, because how much do you respect yourself? So you need to work on yourself first before you can actually get that out there. But there is sometimes, as you said, conflict and of course quite often also differences. Whether it's religious or culture or anything like that, we need to, Stephen Covey always said, we need to understand before being understood. But when we bring basic human values, there's a lot of programs that we adapt, especially from Western culture to Africa and things like that, to the cultures here. But values-based leadership, because it uses basic human values, they are the same in every culture. They might have a slight variation on, but they are the same. But for us to, we can't say, oh, we're not going somewhere. We've been in informal areas as well, and the violence and the poverty and all that kind of stuff. It makes my heart bleed every time. But we need to, we need to be the inspiration and make sure that people start to connect. We've got stories even in informal areas where xenophobia disappeared because women learned to stand together and stand up against those kind of things of gender-based violence and all those kind of. And there's plenty of stories. But when we have basic human values, rather than the values on a wall that means something to somebody, these basic human values, when it's a roundtable process, very simple. There's 5 steps that everybody's got a voice. So we learn about other people because they talk about themselves, and everybody has goals they set. So we grow together, and the facilitator is the leader of those kind of things. So it's a very simple process, but when we use values, we can go everywhere. But we need to keep some of our own judgments at home, because we need to first try to understand other people, and then hopefully that we get on the same page, and the values are the tools to do it.
Thank you. Johan has a question, and then Harriet does. Johan?
All right, excellent presentation and such valuable insight. I'm curious, in my work, it's confidence on camera, and I see authenticity sometimes used as a buzzword. And I was wondering, in your work, because being authentic as a human, on a day-to-day basis, connecting with others one-on-one, that's one thing. But on social media, it seems to be a different beast there. What can you say about that?
You're absolutely right. That's all I can. No, I mean it's true. When you don't know people and they hide behind avatars and all those kind of things, and they come out with stuff on social media. See, there is so many people who don't walk that walk. And that's why values are even more important. We can't exclude them. I would love to include them into this process so they can start building their foundation, because if they don't walk the walk, they have no foundation. And that's why in leadership, it's easier to see. But when you look at the film stars and all these big social media people who've got a huge following, they've got a responsibility as role models. And quite often they don't take that responsibility the way it was meant to, because they say sex, drugs, and rock and roll and everything else. But I mean, when even in business, you can't be different in business than when you are in your family. If you connect and appreciate people at work, yet at home you're very different, let's put it that way. But then there's gender-based violence in your home, yet at work you're seen as a person of stature. There's people sitting sometimes in the front pews of churches, and I mean, I'm Christian myself, but there has been a conversation about that. They want to be seen to be sitting in there. And it's the same in social media. There's people who just portray themselves different. I always say to the people, if you are 2 different persons, you need to be the same person wherever you are and walk that walk. And when you do, you will gain traction, but also keep that traction. And I said that people who know me, they know I'm no different. I'm passionate about what I do, so I come with energy. I bring energy to the table. And when I start talking, I've never had a problem talking. I always have a problem shutting up, especially when I get excited about things. But I think we should not entertain the people who we know are not as they seem lightly. I'm very outspoken about a lot of things as well, and so I speak into those kind of things a lot. But it is very difficult at first to see. We always hope that they are, like you said, I'm authentic. We always hope that they're like us, and for that we need to remain authentic. Hopefully that it rubs off.
Thank you. Excellent.
Thank you. Harriet had a question in chat. Do you want to voice it, Harriet?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Love your energy, wisdom, and fire. I just wondered for you, what's been one of your, and I'm sure there's many different ones of different lengths, but what stands to mind as one of your biggest challenges in leadership, and what was one of the core aspects outside of values that really got you through it?
Oh, friendship. The second one first. We've all been through the valleys and the you know the ups and downs, and I've got a story about this, a speech all by itself, something that brought me on my knees, and it is my personal development that kept me going, because my personal development allowed me to help others around me, and first and foremost, but it's my friendship I built through time that really got me through some of the areas that I wonder if I'd got off my knees if I hadn't had those amazing friends and amazing family. So and in leadership, I think some of the biggest frustrations are exactly that Johan already said, Johan, is the inauthenticity, the things that people talk about. I mean, I would never become a politician because I'm too honest. People have asked me before to do so. I said no chance, but I think it is.
Maybe you should then.
Well, no. I would never get anywhere, because when you speak up and speak the truth, it doesn't always help. But I think, you know, we see it so much around us that people who say one thing, kiss babies' heads at the elections, and then as soon as they're in power, it's totally different. It is the lies and the injustices which really get me. You know, I mean, hunger and poverty. We talk about wars around the world. We don't even know that up to 200 is something for you. In Africa, up to 280,000 people a day die from hunger and poverty. Now, where is that in the news? It's not news. And those kind of things outside of leadership and those kind of things, they get me, because it says, you know, we all need to do as much as we can. We have got a purpose. We need to do what we can to make sure that we stop those kind of things happening, because in this day and age, that should not be happening. Thank you.
Love your fire and passion. Thank you for sharing.
And thank you.
Very, very empowering to see two powerhouses speak and discuss something. And you would be a good politician. And I know there's a few people in this room that will be great politicians, but will utterly fail at being politicians. But we are the kind of people that the world needs to be politicians and run the world. Marvin has a question. Marvin, are you there?
Yeah, there you are. I am. I'm sorry. I make a sorry about that. I love your presentation, John. I'm actually in my kitchen, and that's why I'm not on camera as yet. You see, I believe in value system, and one of the values I practice is to take care of my husband. So I'm preparing his lunch and his breakfast right now. That's why I'm off camera. So I really believe in values. All right. I love what you say. It so appeals to me. If you stand for, you said something, if you can't stand for something, you'll fall for everything. Yeah. And that is truth. And I have lived that. I've experienced it on both sides, positive, negative. You see, when you stand for values, sometimes people doesn't like you. Sometimes you don't have the friends that you really thought you had. And so one of the things that I'm asking is that when you stand for values, sometimes it costs you. And yes. I just wanted to hear your thought on that. Because sometimes you lose connections, sometimes you lose friends, and you lose associate because your value system is so different. But it's all about what you said in your opening remarks, integrity. It is so important. And we can't allow anyone to allow us to lose ourselves and our integrity. Thank you. I'll be listening as I close back the camera. I'll soon be answering.
Yes, and I'll answer that question for you as well. And it is so true. First of all, I don't think you can lose friends because of your values. Because I saw this during COVID as well. I've lost my best friends, and the same answer you get from me here. If they are your best friends, they would never leave you because you don't agree on something. If they're your best friends, they will probably not have exactly the same values. Size doesn't fit all, but they will appreciate you for the value system that you live. That's when you've got best friends. But if they leave you, say goodbye. That gives you space for other friends to walk into your life, people that really appreciate you. And I think that values, yes, you will lose some people, you will gain some people, but in the end, as long as you stick with the values that you will never compromise on, and you mentioned integrity, and there is quite a few that people choose, and as you have to stand fast. And I've also experienced this, that because we wouldn't, as a company, we wouldn't take a bribe, and this was a huge contract. We wouldn't take a bribe we never got the contract. And I can live with myself. I can live with myself and those kind of things. But there are some, I know people who do those kind of things, and that's their decision. I don't understand. Well, I sometimes understand that it needs do some things, but if that happens when you need certain things, again, what else will you fall for? So I love what you said, and thank you for taking part. And even though you're in the kitchen preparing food, thank you.
Kitchen is a wonderful value to have, isn't it? Taking care of your husband and your family, that's also a value you stand for. So let's go for it. And Murveen is really an amazing person. She was our speaker yesterday. And Richard has a question to end this session. Go, Richard.
Not a question, but I made a comment because I think so much of the leadership is these people are going to save you. They're going to do things for you. And the truth is, no one's coming to save us. No one's coming to do things for us. It's what are we willing to do for ourselves? Because I see so much of people, this will do this for me. This pill will do this for me. Well, what are you going to do for you? So if you want to expand upon that, because so much we've given away our power through some sort of, it's all by media. But I mean, how would you define that maybe more where people can actually get that?
Again, wonderful, Richard. And in my self-care talk, I talk about that as well, about self-care, because that's really what we're talking about anyway. We can brainstorm that's why I call it brainstorming, because we blame everybody else, the government, the scientists, the church, our neighbor, our dog, everything that we can find. But the only person who can guarantee that you have a better tomorrow is the person looking in the mirror. And if you're not willing to become accountable to the person in the mirror for your health, your spiritual, physical, mental, and emotional well-being, then stop blaming other people and get off your backside and get off your excuses and start living your life and start living your best life. And I can talk on about it, but I think I want to leave it there. You have your responsibility, not only to yourself, but the people around you, for you to live your best life. Because then you will become the change that people need around you, that people sometimes expect. And not everybody will do that. But you be that example to them. Let people ask you, why, how come that you're so happy? How come that you look so well? How come that things are so different from you and we're always miserable? I mean, I have plenty of examples of people who remain miserable for most of their life, and they're not living, they're existing. And that's why I say, if you are intentional about living your best life, if you can do that every single day, you will guaranteed start to live a legacy rather than just leave one.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Thank you.
What a fire in the room. Everybody needs to connect with Jan, and whatever he is doing, it's right there in the chat. I put in his website, his LinkedIn, and he has lots and lots and lots of stuff on YouTube. I've been hogging his YouTube for a while the last week. And that's how I get to know most of my speakers and people that I want in my community. So thank you, Jan, from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. It's all our pleasure to be listening to you.